Climate change has become a new religion. Every time you turn on the TV or the radio, all you can hear is people talking about global warming and how we have to decrease temperatures by 2 degrees or we're all going to fry. But what they don't tell you is that temperature has been changing on the Earth for billions of years. Take a look at this figure and you'll see what I'm saying. All of these peaks and valleys, they usually happen more significantly and more rapidly than what we're experiencing today. But when a climate warrior shows you a graph, it always starts at the year 1880. They never mention to you that the Earth is 4.6 billion years old, so your first question should always be, where's the rest of the data set? Actually, the Liberals feature this graph on their new government webpage on climate change, and it's also featured on Environment Canada's website, and even Rachel Notley used it in her fake survey. Another thing that these organizations have in common is they reference the IPCC, or the International Panel on Climate Change, and these guys have been uncovered to be government scientists, and if you take a look at this plot of 15 models, the data sets just don't match up. They don't even track each other. And in order for science to be valid, you should at least have a repeatable model that you can show repeats itself several times. It's not science to show 15 wildly different models on a plot. Good science would at least show those trends tracking one another. Now, like I said, I agree that climate is changing. It's been changing for billions of years, but humans have been around for millions of years, and we've survived several climate changes, even ice ages without fossil fuels. And it's been said that ice in the Antarctic is growing and there's really been no warming trends for the past 10 years. But progressives have no problems telling you that your kids are gonna fry.
You cursed rat! Look what you've done! I'm melting! Melting! Oh, what a world! What a world!
During the introduction of her carbon tax, Rachel Notley had no problem talking about the Columbia ice fields melting, but she did have a problem talking about the Laurentide Glacier that was 3.2 kilometers thick and covered North America about 95,000 years ago. It retreated about 5,000 years ago, except in Greenland, of course, where the ice is still there. Check out this picture of Big Rock. It's evidence of the ice sheet that once covered Alberta and North America. This is what geologists call a glacial erratic. It's a rock that differs in both size and composition to the surrounding rocks. This thing is huge, and it's a testament to how thick and how massive these ice sheets were. Glacial erratics could be transported hundreds of kilometers at a time. Much of the landscape in Alberta is shaped by glaciers. There's no question that climate has changed here. But how did all that ice melt without industry around? That's a question you should ask yourself. And what about anthropogenic input? I mean, if you start your car, you're putting GHGs into the atmosphere. That's just science. I mean, where else would it go? The real question is, how significant of an impact are we having? And to me, it's probably negligible. We're at some of the lowest temperatures and lowest CO2 levels in Earth history. Here's a great analogy on CO2 levels by Professor Ian Plimer.
Carbon dioxide is a natural gas. It has dominated the atmosphere for an extraordinarily long period of time, and we now are at a dangerously low level. If we halved the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we would have no terrestrial plants. Carbon dioxide is plant food. It is not a pollutant. To use words like pollution with carbon dioxide is misleading and deceptive.
If geologists and other scientists are agreeing that climate change is just a big hoax, why is the government pushing it so much? One of the more outspoken opponents of anthropogenic global warming, Lord Monckton, suggested that Tony Abbott and Stephen Harper would be ousted from their positions because of their more conservative stances when it comes to climate change. And he said this was due to a global government wanting to take power. At this point, it's really difficult to ignore Lord Monckton's words.
So I think there is a very clear agenda on the part of ambitious politicians and bureaucrats that being Prime Minister or President of a single nation isn't enough. They now want to be President of the world or a member of the World Governing Council. And the climate change thing is being used by some people of that stamp as an excuse and as an attempt to try to establish what has often been described by the staring-eyed right-wing fanatics as a new world order.
Lord Monckton even went as far as suggesting that there's operatives in place that made this happen, and now it's become a truth. Is climate change really pushing these political agendas? I tend to think so. We have politicians and bureaucrats telling us that temperature rises are a bigger threat to humans than even ISIS. And for a scientist that's been studying the Earth for over 10 years, it just seems like a lot of craziness to me. For TheRebel.Media, I'm Holly Nicholas.